wonders who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing. This is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to World of Wonders Wow Report on Radio Andy, where we count down the top 10 things from the past week that made us go wow. I'm Fenton Bailey, co-founder of World of Wonder, joined by James St. James, whose father has a cane made from a bull's penis.
He does, yes.
What's that?
It's
His
called a
father has a cane made from a bull's penis.
It's a dried out, stretched out, and then shellacked, and it's called a bully stick.
And you've played with it, have you?
Well, he might be listening, so I don't want to say that I deep-throated it.
Oh, okay. Well, you can be followed on Twitter at JSJDarling.
We've never done that before.
I've never done that before.
No.
Is that your idea? Okay. Also joining us is executive producer on RuPaul's new talk show, airing right now on Fox. Check your listings. It's our chief creative officer, Tom Campbell.
I'm back.
Wait, I was going to say, are you a new person? We've never had you on the show before.
I feel like I'm Elizabeth Hasselhoff returning to The View for just one day or something like that. I've been busy. I've been working, you know. But I'm so glad to be here. I missed you guys.
Elizabeth Hasselbeck.
Oh, you're right.
Hasselhoff.
Oh, Hasselhoff married Hasselbeck. Oh,
They
who
would
cares?
be good.
Maybe Hasselbeck Hasselhoff.
You can watch us on Wow Presents on YouTube. And now let's get started with the countdown.
Yes.
Number 10. I'm very excited about this one. Number 10, Tom.
Number 10.
Well, Taylor Swift wrote a song to James St. James with a message, you need to calm down.
You've been listening to the show, even though you haven't been on it.
Listening to the show. No, I love when you pop off, James, so feel free. Just don't get disgruntled and go postal on us. Taylor Swift, new video. Have you seen it?
Yes.
I've seen it.
It is as gay as anything could be, with the exception, of course, of Taylor Swift. Todrick Hall, who is a collaborator, friend of WoW, has been a judge on Drag Race several times.
And a good friend of hers.
And a good friend of hers gets credit on it, is in it, and it has cameos of the most spectacular.
How many can you name?
I'll run out. RuPaul.
Yes.
Jesse Tyler Ferguson and Justin, his husband. Laverne Cox.
Being married by Ciara. Right.
There is Laverne Cox is in it.
Yep.
The Queer Eye guys are in it.
Yep.
Ellen DeGeneres is in it.
Yes.
Adam Lambert is in it, giving her a tattoo.
Yes.
Adam Rapon.
Yes.
Adam Rapon is
selling
slushies
snow cones
with a little cutoff.
Snow cones. Winter Olympics.
You know, it's nice to see someone spending a lot of money on a video, because videos are sort of coming back, as we've talked about. What's remarkable to me, because I have a little bit of insight, because Ru has been busier than we have, because he's been doing his talk show and we're doing more stuff. And so they came to him for his part, where he's walking in front of a bunch of the Drag Race queens that are also on it, and he throws the thing in the air, and it looks like he's there. It was done on green screen. As I believe,
really does.
most of this was, I think they went to Ellen.
Oh, they probably went to. Yeah,
yes.
I was going to say that's quite a group of people that they assembled that they didn't.
Out in a trailer park someplace, because it's this, you know,
Well, it echoed
bubblegum colored.
Pink flamingos for me. Was what was being conjured up. The filthiest couple alive, living
I don't
in
know that Taylor knows about pink flamingos.
I think Todrick does.
Yeah, Todrick would.
does.
And
Yeah.
he was like an AP on this, I think.
And
Yeah, he
in
gets
fact-
credit. He gets like a written credit.
And there's a fire. It starts with the trailer burning down. So
Right.
it, you know, the great reference. I love the crown moment, because the lyric is, "We all got crowns. You need to calm down." The idea that everyone's a winner.
No, it's true. Now, the two things that I want to point out about the video.
because it's a little controversial.
There is a little controversy
What
about it.
is the-
But number one is that, you know, the minute that she says about GLAAD, she mentions GLAAD, and they said that GLAAD's donations went through the roof about that. So she does.
Power of Taylor Swift.
The power of Taylor Swift, and that she is an ally. And a lot of people are saying, what are they? What is
what's
their
They're
the-
shading her
Yes.
because it's like she's co-opting gay culture.
Yes.
But
Oh.
you know what? I know.
Oh,
You can't
no.
win. You can't
No,
win
no,
if
no,
you're
no.
on the side of the
Oh,
I know.
for fuck's sake.
We were bitching that she didn't, come out earlier against
Of course.
Donald Trump and everything.
And this
but
has been kind of a monumental year, where she came out against the legislation, or the governor, or in Nashville. She this is a huge love letter to culture. It was on Breitbart. The video was on Breitbart, and I was Googling, so I looked at it, and of course it's just a target for the right and haters and things of that
Yes,
nature.
and the haters are in the video. They have signs like "Get
Yes,
a brain,
yes.
moron,"
So not
spelled
only-
wrongly.
I know.
Get a
But
brain,
not only are the
moron.
haters from the right, but they're also from the left because she cannot do whatever you.
That's the part I don't like. She's not
Look,
authentic enough. She's
here's
not
the
gay.
thing.
Yeah, no,
She's,
I-
you know,
Here's the thing: culture is appropriation.
Thank
it
you.
just is. It's like that's the way it gets made. You take something from here, you take something from there,
Yeah.
and you mash it all together.
But the big sort of the reason to many reasons to watch it. There's a
Yes.
lot of Drag Race queens, and I'm going blank because I'm nervous and fast here.
Oh,
But
you.
the moment at the end, because the thing about videos always is they're supposed to have a third act. I know their last 3 minutes, but there has to be an outfit. There has to
Right.
be something that you're waiting for, and sometimes they miss out on that.
Right.
Well, suddenly you see Katy Perry,
Yes.
who
Oh,
has been
yes.
Taylor Swift's enemy, dressed in what looks like the burger outfit that you changed into at the Met Ball. So
Correct.
it's a meta Met Ball moment. And Taylor is dressed up as like a McDonald's fries, and they see each other across a crowded trailer park and come together and embrace. And that moved me because it's like they had that Twitter war, and she's still my dancer, and
They had a multi-year feud.
yes, which it felt like during the Obama years. You could watch Housewives and it was okay. You could have a Twitter feud and it was okay.
Feud-attainment.
It was like the parents were in place, everything was okay, so we could act out. And now it feels like the trailer park is burning down. Right. Trump's in office, and we need to look to the greater cause. So I'm glad in the world that Katy Perry and Taylor Swift have made up. Taylor Swift, how old do you think she is?
27.
Oh, probably 28, 29.
She's 20. It's her birthday in
But
December.
then-
She's turning 30, so it's a mark. Because I still think of her as that little girl at the CMTs with like cowboy boots and a sundress, and like she's becoming an adult. So Taylor Swift, what's it? Calm down. It's called.
Yeah,
Why
calm
don't
down.
You need
Calm
to
down.
calm down, James St. James. You should watch it. It's 3 minutes of overproduction that you'll never forget.
Oh, I
Thank
love
you.
that.
We'll post it.
Starbucks delivery.
We'll post it on the WoW Report.
Let's do.
I think it's already been on the Wow Report, darling.
There's one cameo you missed. Tiny one. Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, I saw that.
Yes.
He's so cute. I love Ryan
Painting
so
a
much.
picture of the Stonewall Inn. I think it's just fantastic. Anyway, okay. Number 9, James.
Number 9.
Oh, very sad. I'm sure you all have seen the news about Gloria Vanderbilt's passing. And I'm sure you've seen Anderson Cooper's tribute to his mother on CNN. That was just, it's hard to get through. He chokes up at the end, and it's sad, but it's a beautiful, beautiful tribute to a beautiful, beautiful woman.
Yes.
The thing about Gloria is, that she has been an icon in every decade for the last 90 years.
Yes, she's been famous her whole life.
Her
I think.
whole, yeah.
Ever
As a
since then.
child, she was the first trial of the century in the 1920s when her mother.
Custody battle, right?
It was a custody battle between her mother and her aunt, who was Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney, and they both wanted control of her trust fund, which is basically they didn't give a whit about her. They did not care about the girl at
was
the
a
center of
power
it.
play.
It was a power play, and it unfolded in the newspapers, and it was. People
And
went.
not to throw you out, what did the Vanderbilts make their money on? Was it railroad
it
or
was-
steel or something that you made a lot of
It
money
was
on?
robber
Yeah.
baron type money, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
it was
yes,
the
yes.
1880s or 1860s, I believe.
gabillionaires.
Yeah,
Gabillionaires.
and they weren't quite up to snuff with the Astors and the Whitneys and everybody, so they sort of barged their way into society.
Such a fabulous name, Vanderbilt.
I
It's
know,
so
yeah.
epic.
But then, also as she grew up, she was just beautiful, just absolutely stunning. Like a once in a generation beauty. She married 4 times. She married a mobster, Pat Tisico. She married Stokowski, the conductor, who was 68 or something when she was 17 or 18. She married Sidney Lumet.
Yes, the director.
And then she married Wyatt Cooper, who was an author, and that was the author of. That was the father of Carter and Anderson.
Yes.
And of course, then she had her jeans in the 70s.
Yes. That's when
That's-
I plugged in.
I'm Gloria Vanderbilt from Missouri, and it's like my jeans are like the skin on a grape, is
Yes.
what she'd say.
that was definitely, wasn't that really the birth of jeans?
It was
fashion.
yes.
Like Levi's, we had Levi's, like original
designer
jeans.
jeans.
Yeah,
Designer
it was
jeans.
before Calvin Klein. It was before
Yes.
all of them. She was she was sort of the first to use her fame and sort of pivot
Yes.
to something else, and she sort of reinvented herself in her 50s, I guess is what she was. Then in the 19
And yet she never looked her age. She always looked kind of like 32.
she had that kabuki white, and they had very severe hair and
Skin of a grape.
It's like the skin of a grape, she'd say. I'm Gloria Vanderbilt from Johnny.
Didn't they also have Gloria Vanderbilt yogurt? Was there
They
yogurt?
had
or-
everything. You know, then she was the first celebrity perfume before Cher and Elizabeth Taylor. But then there was tragedy in the 1980s when Carter, her son, committed suicide in front of her. They were on the penthouse,
Jumped off the roof
the
of
terrace,
their apartment
and he
building.
ran and stood on the edge, and she kept screaming, "No, no, no!" And then he just swan dived off in front of her. And that, I mean,
To survive that and have the kind of sort of optimistic
to
point
keep
of view
going
she
and
had
to
is
have that
kind
sort of
a
put,
miracle.
you know, she's also a great artist. She's a fantastic artist. She's an author. She wrote did 4 novels or 4 books about her childhood and the everything, the trauma that she survived, and they're fantastic. They're it's very impressionistic. It's like a watercolor of history. It's the way she writes is just, it's absolutely fantastic. I wish everyone could Google it or Kindle it or something and read.
When I
these.
heard the sad news, of course, I immediately thought of Anderson. Then I thought of Andy, and then I thought of you because I know how much you read and you know this era fascinates you.
Yeah.
And
I never met her. I met Carter a couple times. He sort of hung out with the Palladium crowd, and
So why did he kill himself?
he had mental health issues, and he just, I don't think
right, there's no answer for that.
No, and I don't think that at the time they had a lot of the medicine that they do now. A lot of
Which have helped so many. James St. James.
anyway.
Gloria Vanderbilt passed away on Monday from stomach cancer. She was 95.
It's a good run.
Rest
Yeah,
in power. Number 8.
Number 8.
I watched. Watched a documentary, not a very well-known documentary. It won a BAFTA award, which is the equivalent of the Oscars.
A Canadian Oscar.
The British Oscars,
British
darling.
Oscars, sorry.
It's called Chosen, and it is about boys in a boarding school.
The Caldecott School.
Caldecott School, who were molested by teachers. And they kept their silence for 40 years.
As so many victims
As
of
so many
so many
happens.
people do.
And finally came out and sat down on camera and tell the stories
it
of
is
what
harrowing.
happened.
Harrowing.
Very simply made documentary. Not a lot of whistles and bells, but
Not a lot of drone
profoundly,
shots interweaving.
profoundly powerful. And
I'm looking for a joke in this because it's
I know. Well,
it's killing my soul.
I don't want to kill your buzz, but because I went to one of these boarding schools, and the sort of awful thing about them is that as the filmmaker said, they went to the best schools that money could buy that fed boys to Eton, Harrow, Oxford, Cambridge. What their parents didn't suspect was that several of the teachers on the staff were career pedophiles, and it's this British thing of committing your children to the Spartan care of strangers who are career specialists in the stealing of childhoods. And I have to say, this documentary then caused a whole outcry, all of which I completely missed being here in the States. Right. I think the documentary came out in 2008 or something. And further inquiries revealed in 130 of these private boarding schools were child molesters who had been removed, charged, etc. I have to say, I myself was not molested by a teacher, but I did have some very unfortunate related experiences at the hands of other pupils. And the one thing you don't do, you don't complain about it, because the shame of it is number one. Sure. The number two, certainly in my case, being gay, the complicity of it. Like, are you really enjoying it?
Sure. There is a pleasure in sexual.
Yes.
Yes.
And then number three, your parents have sacrificed all this money, in my case, to send you to this awful place. So you, which they think is the best.
Sure, they did the very best for you.
But then also you're going to be on the outs with all the other kids in the school, and
it's an impossible situation.
But the thing is, it doesn't just happen in the British, school system. It's something that happens, at Groton and all the schools here in America. You hear that, there are pastors who take their kids on on camping trips. It's something that that happens everywhere.
Boy Scouts.
Boy Scouts, exactly. Yeah. Yes, and anytime there's somebody in a position of power who is able to take the children away from their parents and sort of isolate them is something that happens. It's funny because I didn't even think about that it would be the headmasters. To me, it always seems like it would be an upperclassman who.
Talk about a brilliant twist, right? So one of the boys, it comes out, right? The matron observes what's going on. She blows the whistle. The teacher is fired. And then the headmaster, who's in on it too, writes a letter to the parents saying, this is terrible, it's unsavory, but let's move on. We should put him back at school immediately.
Yes.
And he was just back in the system.
Yeah.
I mean, it was under the teacher.
Is there any hope in all this? Is there any, with these kind of documentaries or our knowledge of this, because it was sort of swept under the rug, is it, I don't know.
You have to believe, because this is something that happened for, probably 100 years. And
yes, I mean,
but the more
it was part of British culture.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a part of all
unsavory part of human nature. I just wonder if talking about it now.
That's what I'm thinking. I do think that the more you talk about it and the more you shine a light on these things, the less it can happen. Yeah. I mean, it still happens, but in fact, I have a story in a little bit about a pastor who abused.
Don't go away with that deep tease.
Okay, well, Chosen is on YouTube. I really do recommend it. It's a great film.
It's on YouTube.
It's a bit like watching Finding Neverland, where it's hard to get through. It is hard to watch, and yet it's something that's important. And
do you know what? I have to be honest. I didn't find it hard to watch. I found it incredibly engrossing. I suppose partly because I just saw so many parallels with my own experience and life, and I think for that reason alone, actually, it is worth talking about. Not necessarily in the bring me down victimization sense, but just in the sense of this is what happened. This is what happened.
And I'm not alone.
But I do have to say that there is a trigger warning to watch it if there is if you've been a victim of abuse yourself or anything like that, because there are a lot of things that I remember, like when you hear like the way that they sort of got you into it. And and it's like,
I guess
we've all.
Okay. We'll be right back after the break. Hey, Blake, can you turn things around with a trivia question?
I sure can. Which celebrity in Taylor Swift's You Need to Calm Down video went viral after walking the Marco runway in 2016, featured on our YouTube channel, Wow Presents?
I love a self-promoting trivia question.
I love it, love it. We'll be right back after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report.
Welcome back to the Wow Report, our countdown of the top 10 things from this week that made us go, wow. James is just eating a healthy breakfast of Pringles.
Just a half stack.
Breakfast of champions. Did they have the same ad, you can't eat just one? Because that is true. I just saw you inhale that whole tube. 12 inches.
I think those were Lay's potato chips. This is whatever.
All right. Before the break, we had a question. Blake, what was it?
I asked which celebrity in Taylor Swift's You Need to Calm Down video went viral after walking the Marco runway in 2016, which was featured on our YouTube channel, Wow Presents.
He is big. He is beautiful. He is plus size. He's African American, and I don't remember his name.
I don't remember his name either, but I love him.
He's great in the video because he pours some sort of oil over himself and he shakes it all about.
Help us, Blake.
Dexter Mayfield.
Yes. Oh my God, Dexter, we're so
right.
sorry.
It is and he has they all have cameos that go by quick. His seems to settle in.
He's at the very beginning, Him and Hannah Hart, another big YouTuber.
People. So again, I don't know if congratulations to Todrick for being.
It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing. It's so funny when you said there was a controversy surrounding it. I just assumed it was straight people having a bitch and moan about gay people.
No, it's the gays.
The circular,
sometimes the circular firing squad. Right. Anyway, we're counting down top 10 things that make us go wow, and we've reached number 7.
Number 7.
Wait a minute, hold on a second. Are these new glasses?
Kind of.
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
see.
I guess I haven't seen you in a
It's
month.
true.
Yeah, you look
Yes.
nice. You look very good.
Thank you. You guys haven't talked about this, and it's a couple weeks old, but I want to implore people, if you haven't, go to the theater to see Rocketman. Did you see Rocketman?
No, I haven't
Did you
seen
see
it.
Rocketman?
I have not.
I think it's a movie you should see in the theater based on my short-term attention span. When I'm home, I can get distracted by anything, and it is a fantastical telling of Elton John's life. So it's a musical. It bursts out into song. There, people levitate, and so it is a very serious, fun, music-filled, accurate. It's been truncated to be kind of a musical, but it is fantastical. And I can be cynical. I got on that. I say you either like watch the ride take off and watch everybody else on it, or you get on that ride and you go on it. I was front row of that roller coaster with my arms up.
Did you weep? Were you?
I was incredibly moved by it.
Because this is my problem here.
Thank you, James.
Yes.
Does his life really merit a whole movie? I mean, how
What
interesting
about
is his
Queen?
life?
What about Queen?
How interesting is Queen?
Confession: never saw Bohemian Rhapsody.
I think we have to see both and then do a
All
sort
right.
of
'Cause
A/B
Bohemian
comparison.
Rhapsody, I'm told, is like a concert movie. It's about his life and the music's done in concert. This is like The Bitch Is Back plays in the first act when in a cul-de-sac in England with his family and friends.
But does everybody deserve a biopic?
Actually, James, I do. I think
do?
most
You think
of
so?
it.
Absolutely.
I think you deserve a 6-parter on Netflix.
There's already like 3 parts on James. How do we have to keep going?
Well, that movie, it kind of sounds like that. Remember the Across the Universe, the Beatles musical?
Yeah.
Oh, is it a return to that sort of 60s pop?
I guess.
fantastical
I mean, I
Hard
don't
Day's
think
Night?
Across the Universe was actually about the Beatles, though. I think it was.
But biopics tend to
It was
fall
a
into
jukebox
certain
musical
tropes,
is what
right? You
that
have to
was.
know what happened in your youth that paid off in your thing. He, has recovery in his story, and that's one of the devices they use. But there is one particular scene that I found so moving, and it snuck up on me because here's Elton, who's this music prodigy, never fit in, didn't get along with his family, hiding his gayness. He comes to LA. It's like an overnight sensation. There's a great scene where right after the Troubadour, they go to a party at Mama Cass's in Laurel Canyon, and it's kind of fabulous. But he ends up meeting David Reed. That was his manager for a long
John
time?
Reed.
John Reed, excuse me. John Reed. And
Who is played by?
the bodyguard guy there.
Yeah.
We've had many sessions
Richard
on
Yes,
this.
we
Madden,
have.
woo!
But and that character ends up being kind of a villain in the piece. But when they first meet, it's the first. Elton's not a virgin when this happens, but it's like that first time you meet the person that you love, you think you love, and they have this sort of romantic scene where they go to bed and they take off their clothes. Again, nothing lurid, and he ends up with Elton sort of on top of him. John wraps his legs around him, and the camera just tastefully goes up. And I, without warning, without knowing, it's not a heavy-handed scene, just started to cry.
I know.
Because you don't see
Gay people in love.
tender scenes, and it wasn't about the nakedness. It wasn't like, oh, look at that. It was just like, oh my god, like,
And Taron is just fantastic.
he is amazing.
Is he Oscar amazing?
I think so. I hope he doesn't get ignored because of the timing of this. But it's beautiful, and it makes you feel good. And I just see it. The only other thing I'll have to say is I remember my age. It's like Elton John was one of my first albums. I have trouble understanding the words to Elton John songs, which is because I like to sing every song. But you hear
Because of the accent or what?
Oh, they kind of meld together.
But don't every single one of his album comes with a sleeve and the
No,
words?
not the greatest hits. But when you hear boom, 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 like every one of his songs comes on, you're just like, oh my god! It's
What
the
is
music
the
that's in
soundtrack
your
of
veins.
your life?
Yes,
Yes.
Oh, it's the theme of the 70s.
Yes.
Benny and the Jets.
And
oh my
and
God.
how flamboyant. And the other thing, and I'll shut up, is I had no idea in the 70s that he was gay. It grew as I grew older. But at the height, when he was the most Captain Fantastic, he was just everyone's favorite. And this flamboyant, one of the few, we talk about how like Lady Gaga is this incredible artist who's taken on the drag to like make herself a superstar. Here's Elton John. He was he was a gay man
My God.
who gayed out and ruled the world.
With one exception, that he wasn't out. I mean, but it was
No.
glam rock. It was glam rock,
Yes.
and that was the closest thing to
Yes.
drag. You had Bowie, you had Elton John, and I'll just say, if you are an Elton John fan, you've got to check out Tantrums and Tiaras, the documentary that
that'd be fun
David
to watch right
Furnish,
now, yes.
his husband, made about him. It's really revealing and fascinating. And yes.
Elton John's still standing. And
That's the one that gets me. That's the one that gets me.
You've got to see this movie, then.
Oh, my God.
You have to see this movie.
Just going to weep. James, number 6, quickly.
Number 6.
Quickly, I'm sorry. I was on a sort of a manic high last weekend.
Really?
I went absolutely bananas. I went on an eBay buying binge of epic proportions. I'm going to be eating ramen for the rest of my life.
Can Blake help you repackage things and return them?
Well, that's why I'm eating the right there.
The Pringles.
I've talked before about my obsession with Buster Crabbe. I think we all know about Buster Crabbe and James.
No, who?
Buster Crabbe was the king of the cereals in the 1930s. He is the only actor to play Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers, which in Tom terms is like playing Lily Munster and Morticia Addams, or like I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched. It's like they were they were like competitors. He played that. He also played Tarzan.
I remember.
Yeah,
yes.
he was Tarzan, Flash Gordon, and Buck Rogers. He was the most gorgeous man in the history of the world.
Athlete, Olympian. Where did he come from?
He was like Johnny Weissmuller.
Yes.
He was at first in the Olympics. He was a swimmer, and then Hollywood beckoned, and he was in these serials, which was like the 15-minute things that the kiddies watched and everything.
In the 20s and 30s.
In the 30s and 40s actually.
Okay.
And
Gee.
I've talked a little bit about. I know I've talked about it on the show here about how my favorite is 1930s science fiction as opposed to 1950s science fiction, because in the 30s,
Pre-nuclear,
they didn't have all that. They hadn't codified it in the way that the 50s had.
Yeah.
And they it was such a shoestring budget that they would just go and raid whatever the studio had.
Right.
And so the looks were always like a Robin Hood hat and an Egyptian collar, and then they would spray paint everything silver,
Right.
and then they would have like biblical robes and like just whatever they could do, and that's what science fiction was to them. So they're running around all these like scenes, and the monsters are like rock monsters, and it's just like a paper bag on their head. It's just really, but I love it, and so I went crazy, and I bought autographed 8x10 glossy photos. I bought lobby cards. I bought actual poster from the 1930s.
Yes.
I bought a 1938 Look magazine that he was on the cover of. I bought a ray gun that he signed, a toy ray gun. Then I just went absolutely bananas. I'm going to be in debt for the rest of my life. And I was
How much
doing
did
it.
you spend?
I spent
Over 100. Over 1,000.
100,000.
Over 5,000.
Between.
Wow.
But what I was doing in my head, and this is the crazy thing, this is where I don't really understand what was going on in my head. I was decorating an imaginary guest room in an imaginary house that I don't have, and it was going to be like this sort of 1930s, like themed, like kids room that was going to play the serials at all times, and it was going to have like all the memorabilia on the wall. And so someday I'm going to have a house that is going to have a Buster Crabbe room in it.
You can see it. You can make it.
And it's true.
Manifest it,
Honey,
James.
make the curtains and it will come, right?
Isn't there a conference room at least we could start
Let's do it.
here at the World of Wonder?
So that's what's my weekend, and now every day is starting to dribble into these things that I've bought. So
If you need lunch or something, let me know. I'll make sure that you're fed.
I know what you mean about those eBay binges. So you get into a groove.
and all of a sudden I was like, well, I need that, and I need that, and I need that, and all of a sudden it was like 4 a.m, and then it was 5 a.m, and I was still going. And
God bless you, James St. James.
Number 5.
Number 5.
Chernobyl.
I heard you guys dissing the thought of Chernobyl the other week when I wasn't here.
Yes.
But
and
now you've watched?
the thought was, I think, I can't remember at what point in the show we were dissing Chernobyl, but I went and watched it. And oh my God, it is fantastic.
That's what I hear.
It is so good. One of the great innovations, I feel, of the whole thing. I mean, it's done in a palette of greige and industrial green, which you would expect because it's a Soviet in the collapsing Soviet in the
bus
early
stops.
80s. Yes. So tweaking my nipples right there.
that's a brutalist architecture for you, in manhole covers.
But It's a lot of British actors are in it, and they made the brilliant decision not to have anyone speak Sovietsky. Because, of course, the moment you put a Russian accent on anyone, it's foreign and weird and
comical a little bit.
A little bit. And so they just
Moose
speak.
and squirrel.
Yes, exactly.
And so they just speak normally. And it's really engrossing and good. And you realize that, of course, this must be a Western filter on a Russian event. In fact, I've read reviews that say that sort of the predominant sense of resignation in the Soviet Union on the brink of collapse was such that no one would do things, and that we look at it from a Western perspective of people knowing better of how incompetently run this place was and how you must do things. You know, that's a sort of can-do sort of Western thing, whereas the whole place was just mired in ennui and despair. That aside, it's still really good. It's still really, really, really good. And
Now, can I ask sort of the timeline of the series? Like,
well, it's 1986. It begins with it gets straight to it. There's no sort of fucking around. They literally begin with the explosion, which is also done brilliantly, because in a Hollywood sense, you would be right in there with things exploding, and that's how you would do the action sequence. This is actually shot from far away. Someone's in their apartment in Pripyat. A first responder wakes up, and you see this. You hear this boom, and it's sort of not that loud. And then you see this, and this really did happen, this streak of light going straight up into the air. You know, like when they do the World Trade Center Memorial? Yeah. It's those beams. Mm-hmm. It's just a beam of blue ionized light. And people were so fascinated by this, they went out and stood on a bridge. This bridge later became known as the Bridge of Death, because unbeknownst to them, as they were admiring this blue light going into the sky, and as ashes like snow fell around them, they were having a radiation bath that would shortly kill them. And it is just so brilliantly done. It's not done in a lurid, sensational way.
And yet, here's the thing. I mean, we know how this ends. How can they go 6 seasons? How can you get more?
Well, I think it's with all these binge-worthy things, it's the level of detail that the binge format gives you, that real estate that you can go into detail and tell stories and little details that you would not be able to do in a 60-minute, 90-minute. You know,
Well,
how many
and
episodes?
it's-
I think it's 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah,
First
it's-
one is like 90 minutes long.
It's 5 episodes, and they bill it as a miniseries, so
Yeah.
maybe it's not going to be a second season. Or
And
a
yet
third.
it's doing so well, and everyone is getting so many. So I
Right.
mean, it's going to sweep the Emmys, I imagine.
I
and
imagine.
Yeah.
The director said that maybe the sequel should be, you know, Bhopal or Fukushima. Maybe he has a new stock in trade. I mean, the other thing I should mention about this actually is that since Chernobyl has aired on HBO and Sky in the UK, people have been flocking there and taking selfies, and even like thirst trap selfies of girls in sort of underclad in radiation suits with sort of their panty line showing, and
that's why we're doomed.
But I mean, isn't it like 1,000 years before it's ever going to really be
no,
clear?
it's open. Chernobyl, yes, but Chernobyl itself is
Yes, but people are still going there.
It's open to tourists. It is. You can go visit Chernobyl.
But should we? I don't know that we should.
Well, it's like what about World Trade Center, like the memorial down there? I mean,
My parents went to Chernobyl, and all I got was this radioactive T-shirt.
all I got was this third limb.
I mean, and that's the other. I mean, it's fascinating because how many people did die? You know, in the immediate explosion, it's like they think 30 to 50, but then Russia brought in 600,000 people to clean it up. 600,000 conscripts, basically, to clean it up. And they estimate, they don't really know how many, you know, whether it's in the immediate blast,
Right.
but in the aftermath of long-term illnesses, you know, it's like...
Well, you know, it's also, I mean, like 2 Mile Island, or I mean, like in
Yeah.
any of those
3 Mile.
disasters. 3 was it 3?
3 Mile.
I went to a 2 Mile Island.
8 Mile with Eminem.
You know, I will just say one thing. It's directed by Johan Renck, who is a music video director. He directed Black Star and Lazarus, those 2 last David Bowie music videos.
Oh, so good.
And Hung Up. Madonna's Hung Up.
Time goes by.
And it's written by Craig Mazin, who wrote The Hangover Part 2 and Part 3, and the 3rd and 4th Scary Movies. So I love that. Oh, and the other thing
You are
about...
not your resume, people.
The other thing about Craig Mazin is that his freshman year roommate at Princeton was Ted Cruz. And he's on Twitter frequently.
I do see him
taking
on there,
down.
yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I thought that was just little fascinating nuggets.
Absolutely.
Anyway, you really do recommend it. It's on HBO Go, HBO Now.
I have to do Big Little Lies too. I haven't done that too. I mean, I keep saying that how can HBO recover after Game of Thrones?
I think they're doing fine.
I think they're doing.
goes.
Yes, I
Here
do
it
think they're
goes.
doing fine. Yeah.
I'm waiting for a few Big Little Lies to stack up. That I'm going to watch like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, and also Gentleman Jack is that people are saying is pretty fantastic as well.
Right.
Go HBO.
Blake, you got a question for us?
I do. Buster Crabbe won the 1932 Olympic gold medal for 400-meter freestyle swimming event, which launched his career onto the silver screen. Where were the 32 Olympics held?
I think I might know. All right. Anyway, okay, so we're listening to the Wow Report on Radio Andy. We'll be right back with the answer after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with Tom and James St. James and Blake. You have
Hi.
a question for us?
I do. Buster Crabbe, who James spoke of earlier, won the 32 Olympic gold medal for 400-meter freestyle swimming event, which launched his career onto the silver screen. Where were the 32 Olympics held?
The 36 Olympics were in Germany.
Berlin.
Oh,
yes.
that's what I was
So
going to say.
I'm going to say Mexico City.
Good guess.
I'm going to say Vancouver.
And I think I'm going to say L.A.
Los Angeles.
Oh, you're right.
That does explain why so many of those went on to become stars.
32, 84, and then 2028, right?
You're right.
All right.
Yeah.
So we're counting down top 10 things that made us go, wow. We've reached number 4.
Number 4.
We live in a world where there's too many streaming systems and more are coming. There's Warner Media, there's going to be Quibi, there's going to be Disney Plus, and I, for no good reason other than just being occasionally cheap, I will not get CBS All Access. I just won't do it. I just won't have another service I have to click through.
Wait, what is it about CBS that you want?
It's just one more. Well, what I want to see is The Good Fight, which is the spin-off of The Good Wife.
Wait, is that Christine Baranski?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And my Michelle, I'm mixing up.
Wait, don't
But,
you have a Roku or an Apple TV?
No. But Robert and Michelle King, who are a married couple, who did The Good Wife, which was really the last great CBS drama to me. I don't watch all those crimes and things. And loved it. Loved it. Every Sunday night, it was just that warm, cuddly watch. It was smart. It was intellectual. It had the the procedural case of the week, so that kept you going. Plus the saga of Juliana Margulies' character. Well, that went away. Juliana Margulies didn't want to do it anymore, so they started writing for this new CBS All Access. And I've been reading about it, and everyone's like, it's the best show ever. My friend John Tollins, our friend John Tollins, writes on it. It's getting all this kind of Emmy buzz, but I have not seen it. And I'm such a bad friend. You think like for $4.99 a month I could join and watch?
I mean, Wow Presents Plus is only $3.99 a month.
That might be more. But knowing that there are cheap people opposite like me, CBS is taking the first season. There's 2 seasons.
I was going to ask how many seasons.
And the first season is airing back-to-back episodes all summer long on CBS, on regular CBS. So Sunday night from 9 to 11, I get to watch the pilot, which is always, it's not tough, but they have to set things up. But it's brilliant already, and it's supposed to get so much better. So it's like if you're like me.
But do you have to have watched any of the others? No.
It enriches it because there's people like Christine Baranski. We have a whole long history with her. She was a major character. There's other characters that pop up that you like, oh my God, I'm so glad they're back. But it has nothing to do with it. Christine Baranski, it starts off, and I think she's in Provence. She's in like an amazing thing, and she's like, I'm retiring. Because she's like this liberal, fabulous lawyer. She dresses great. And she's retiring. And she's buying this $1 million place in Paris. And she goes back to her firm with all these curmudgeon-y guys who we all know. And she's leaving. And they're all like, oh, and they give her, oh, we're so sorry you're leaving. And everyone comes and hugs her. And it's so amazing. And then she finds out that in a Bernie Madoff type, scheme, all of her money is gone. So she's like, I need to come back to the firm. And they're like, we've already let you go. And she was friends with the Bernie Madoff guy and recommended him to a lot of people. I forget who plays the Bernie Madoff character.
Great. I love financial crime.
But Bernadette Peters plays his wife. And the daughter and her goddaughter started working at the firm like at the same time. So Bernie Madoff's daughter, who is played, I can't remember the actress's name. I have it written down here, but she's Rose Leslie, who's pretty amazing. And she,
I love Rose Leslie.
She, do you know Rose Leslie?
Yeah.
She plays a lesbian just by chance, which is just lovely to see, like a regular normal couple that happen to be lesbians. And she, of course, is. Just you know how the Madoff children were just terrorized by their father's sin. So that's how it starts, and so she has to start with this new firm that's kind of like who was the guy that defended OJ, the African American
Cochran.
Yes, very Cochran kind of character, and so everyone's having to reinvent themselves. And the opening title sequence is everything exploding. It's like a television with Trump explodes, a coffee cup explodes, everything. It's just like life is exploding.
Continually combusting.
Yes.
That's what...
Yes. And I think they take that theme and they twist it and twist it and twist it. And it's supposed to be the most kind of accurate representation of what we're living through right now.
Wow. This is the best ad. I have CBS All Access because I got it for Star Trek when Wilson Cruz was playing the gay one in space. And I was like, I'm going to put down my $3.99 or $4.99 or whatever it was. So, and I never canceled it. So I know what I'm doing right after this.
Rose Leslie was in Game of Thrones, and she met her husband, Kit Harington. They were the lovers on Game of Thrones. She was the wildling who was, that makes sense that she plays a lesbian.
Yes, so there's
Because wildlings were all, like, sort of lesbian-like characters. Cut that out. Take all of that out, please.
Leave it in, Blake.
But it's star-studded as we go forward. Lots of guest appearances. And watch it. And
does Christine wear fabulous outfits?
She does.
Okay.
She
And
does.
Bernadette Peters is fabulous.
Bernadette Peters is wearing exactly what she's worn since 19. You know, she has that perfect dress that shows her cleavage. You know what I'm talking about. It's sort of almost like a Ginger's from Gilligan's Island dress with her hair perfect. What are you talking about? So I love Bernadette Peters.
James, number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3, there is a couple of right-wing pastors who are in the news lately, and I wanted to sort of tell about the shenanigans that they're up to. One of them is a right-wing pastor named Rick Wiles from True News, and he has suggested on his show that vegetarian hamburgers are a Luciferian plot to change human DNA.
Of course.
He says that these new foods that they're creating are made in an effort to alter human DNA to cause human beings to no longer be technically classified as human beings, and a plot that would make them impossible to be saved by Christ during the rapture.
How come when it comes to global warming, they're not scientists? You know, the Republicans. But when it comes to the Impossible Burger, they understand how DNA is affected by vegetables.
Exactly. And they're saying that restaurants, fast food restaurants and restaurants are going to start giving us these fake burgers in an effort to pull one over on us. You're going to go to the grocery store and buy a pound of fake hamburger, fake steak, and you won't know that it was grown in some big corporation's laboratory, and the ultimate goal is to bring more people to Satan.
With all due respect, I believe McDonald's has been serving us fake hamburgers for decades. But go on.
There's also a New Jersey pastor, and this is it's not funny, and it's about abuse, and it's about it's not.
I'll shut up. Thank you.
Okay.
Trigger warning.
Trigger warning here. There's a Presbyterian minister in New Jersey who used Native American exorcism rituals, gemstones, and oral sex to extract evil spirits from men undergoing crisis in their lives. He would put stones on them in their naked bodies. He would have them get naked. He would put stones on them and say, "No, you can't. Whatever happens, you can't move these stones. So you have to stay perfectly still." And then he would take a feather and would take it up and down their body and say, "You cannot move. You cannot move." And then he would stick his tongue into their mouths and move it all around to see if he could feel any spirits in their mouths. And then I know nobody say anything. And then he would extract their semen and put it in a little baggie for later. He would do some experimenting on it to see that there weren't any evil spirits in it, and he did this time and time again in his church in New Jersey, and
which would be fine if there was consent. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy.
Yes, and so it's just, you gotta always be these right-wing pastors. You've just always got to be, you know.
But I shouldn't even say this, but it seems as if there is an element of consent in it because they're consenting to this sort of ritual exorcism,
Well,
right?
the guy says.
I hear you. But position, I don't. Who knows? We're making it up because we don't know the victims. But
I know.
when you have people in a position
Absolutely.
of power and
Yes.
influence
Exactly.
that are ordained by God
And
potentially,
this is the problem with religion.
Yes, but he once said he allowed it to happen because he was at such a low point in his life, and he really sort of, So I mean,
think about we've all had low points in our lives. We've all been very vulnerable, and to have either real help and real friends or someone taking advantage of that moment.
Yes.
and
Exactly.
yeah.
Oh, and I thought you were going to talk about Franco Zeffirelli's death.
Well, I was, but then that would be a bit too much death in one time. So
Like the paper says, for Zeffirelli's death or vegan hamburgers. Okay, good. I love
It was an either
That's
or,
your
right?
range. That's your range, James.
It's an embarrassment of riches. So number 2.
Number 2.
Okay, coffee table books about New York nightlife in the 80s. What is happening? It's like a full-on trend.
Oh, wait, there are more than
First-
one?
This is like when everyone was doing World War II documentaries because it was the last gasp of a generation.
the last gasp of the 80s
nightlife. Yes.
Before they're all gone.
James St. James, you are here. What a miracle, national treasure you are. This is Paula Gately Tillman's book.
Who's
It's
Paula
called
Gately
Fringe.
Tillman?
Paula Gately Tillman is a beautiful Southern lady, and she photographed Dick Richards, Atlanta, Funtone Records, the American music show, RuPaul, lots of Ru.
Lurleen, Lahoma.
Oh, my goodness.
Lurleen, Dean Johnson, Nelson Sullivan, Brandt.
So this is mostly Atlanta
This-
nightlife.
Actually, it kind of migrates to New York, and it's got the fabulous
okay.
Isn't
Who
that
is
nice?
handsome?
Is that her in the middle?
Yes, that is her in the middle, being hugged by Randy.
Look how beautiful
And
you are.
Benton.
Oh, wait. And then, as if that's not enough,
Well, this is the
Are you
one.
in both books?
Paige Powell.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
How come these all sound like waspy, like dilettante kind of women?
Paige Powell.
Paige Powell.
She worked in the zoo in Portland shoveling elephant dung, and
Okay.
on a whim went to New York and knocked on the door of Interview and said, "Hire me." And they were like, "Well, do you have any experience?" And
But to
they
be-
offered her a job selling ads, and she thought, "Well, if I can shovel shit, I can sell
I
ads."
was going to say, very similar job description.
And that's what she did. That's what she did. She became the advertising director of Interview, and then became Andy Warhol's close confidant.
I was
and
gonna say
sort of
she-
inseparable bestie, and dated. Lucky her.
Jean-Michel Basquiat.
Yes.
Yeah,
They
for
were
many,
boy-
many years.
yes.
But, I mean, you can't just say that she was like an elephant dung shoveler. I mean, she was a very chic woman, even, I'm
Fabulous.
sure.
Clearly.
dung
Very,
shoveler.
very fat and very
But
well
isn't
educated,
that why
well
you
spoken.
love New York, and especially that period of New York where people would just go there with a dream and Interview Magazine and these beacons of like, there's culture, there's my tribe, and they just go from wherever and reinvent themselves and create this new kind of fame. It's
And
fabulous.
Exactly. And
she was like Andy. She had her trusty Instamatic with her at all times, and she documented the nightlife scene in New
see
York
Lip
City.
Sync,
And every single person except for James St. James is there. Oh, that's nice. There you
Randy
are.
and
Fenton.
Fenton.
Fenton, look at how handsome you were.
I know when
You
I had
still
hair.
are, you still are.
So that was the plot. So it's a 3-volume set.
How they
It's
separated?
absolutely gorgeous.
What's
One
that?
is called Beulah Land. One is called Artists Eating, which is a lot of dinners at the Odeon with Andy Warhol and the entourage. And the other is Animals, which I haven't even opened.
Well, what's the
Probably
blue?
heavily featured in that one.
But what does Beulah Land even mean? I don't think I know.
Beulah Land was the cocktail bar on the corner of 9th and Avenue A on the northeast corner.
And she managed to get 1,000 pages out of that?
It's called Beulah Land, but it's not in Beulah Land. It doesn't. It's really not set in Beulah Land.
Sort
but-
of a state of mind. Beulah Land.
Yes, it was a sort of. Do you remember Beulah Land?
I do.
It was a
I
sort
never
of-
really spent much time there.
4 people could sit there, but there's 1,000 pages
I mean, it
of
was
the
like
book.
there was the Wawa Hut, there was Beulah Land, there was
The Limbo
Yeah,
Lounge,
there was the
the
Limbo
Limbo
Lounge.
Lounge.
Yes,
And the
all-
pyramid.
These are all
within-
names for your children. Blake.
So what's
the
the
Wawa
little,
Hut?
what's the little blue book then, Fenton?
The little blue. That's a good point. What is the blue book?
It's about, Paige Powell.
Having
It's
seen
pictures
my
about Paige
picture, I
Powell.
was completely sated.
I was going to
And-
say, you were just like, okay, these go on the coffee table. I'm done.
Oh, this is an essay about Paige Powell written by Kim Hastreiter, who was the editor of Paper and who edited the whole set. So thank you, Kim.
The last great generation, the 80s New York party people.
But then they did have it was the party, the book party, the book launch was they took every single picture and put it on the walls and the ceilings and the floor, and everybody went and looked for themselves, with a flashlight. And it was supposedly it was like one of the last gasps of New York downtown society.
Do you remember Ink Stole? Whose look was to wear a boa made out of all her press clippings?
Mink stole?
Ink Stole.
Ink stole. There was a mink stole and an ink stole.
Ink Stole who just wore her press clippings.
I don't remember ink.
But you might want to think about that.
I know, right?
An ink stole inspired James St. James clipping outfit.
All right, we have to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll reveal the number one thing that made us go, wow. Hey, I have to tell you, $1 Million Listings, New York returns on your birthday, James.
Really? You know my birthday?
August 1st.
You know my birthday?
Yes, I do.
Or did someone else put that in there?
On Bravo. Of course I know your birthday.
Now I do, too. I have to get you something.
That's a hard one to forget. Okay. Welcome back.
Oh, we're back.
I should wrap up. We'll be right back after the break.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. Yep. I'm here with Tom and James and Blake. So what's the number one thing that made us go wow this week?
Number one.
At the sake of repeating myself, there is a show that you must watch right now, as soon as you get out of your car. And it's the RuPaul show. It's a talk show. It's one of the reasons I haven't been here a lot. We have done 3 weeks of test shows that are airing on the on certain Fox networks in New York, in LA, in San Francisco, Minneapolis. We're in Phoenix. We're in Charlotte, and we'll think of more places we are.
And if you're out of reach, you can also watch on Wow Presents on YouTube. All the shows.
No
are
excuses.
Be done.
RuPaul show. It's a talk show. It is a 21st century conversation. RuPaul was born to do this. And you know, this is what happens. We went, World of Wonder went with Ru to Telepictures, which is part of Warner Brothers, which does Ellen and The Real and TMZ. I mean, just the Tiffany of talk stuff. And with Stuart Krasnow and Mike Darnell and Bridget. And they were into this, and we made a pilot about a year ago with Jill Van Loughran, who is also the woman who ran all of Michelle Obama's. She worked with Oprah for many years. That's where she cut her teeth and spent decades. And then she's most recently was doing the Michelle Obama book tour. So she's like no slouch. And she is the executive producer of this as well, showrunner. And we did a pilot about a year ago. Syndication is a really tough thing to break into. It's just there's only so many slots. It's very traditional in many ways, but Ru is this incredible combination, right? Because Ru's 58 years old. He'll say it. He is a traditionalist in some ways. He knows what's funny. He likes jokes and threes, and he likes to say Buick instead of O. So he knows like his skill. But also who he is and what he represents and what he lives is this 21st century being. The idea of making yourself out of something, of not being male or female, just being alive and enjoying the colors and stepping outside of the patriarchy, stepping outside of what's normal. And just loving, appealing to almost the child in all of us, that likes all the colors. So that combination makes him really potent for daytime because he has a message. And Everybody Say Love is a huge underlying part of the show. And it really is about love. Now, that being said, it's a talk show. You'll watch it, you'll see. Cory Booker has been on. James Corden has been on. You can see these on. The Property Brothers have been on. And
Paula Abdul.
Paula Abdul.
Gus Kenworthy is on this week.
Yes. There is a moment. I'm going to do a spoiler. I'm going to, fire me, Telepictures if you must. But at one point, they're talking about Gayle King, because Michelle's also on the show, Michelle Visage and Ross Matthews. So they're kind of, like, they do little segments, and they're in the audience, and it's like the show is like the audience are the guests, and the guests are the audience. It's very intimate. It's very fun.
And there's a runway that everyone walks down.
And there's a runway everyone walks down, because life is a runway, and you should look amazing. But there's a moment I'm going to spoil, which is they're talking just about, 60's the new 30, and how Gayle King, we've talked about it here, how Gayle King at 64 is taking over the CBS morning show and is like in her prime, at that age. And so she calls in. So she's on a giant screen, just sort of sitting at her conference table. It's probably like 4 PM or something in New York. And she's talking, and they're having a great talk. And it's a little bumpy because it's like a FaceTime, but it's really cute and really fun. And then halfway through, Gayle picks up her phone, and she turns it toward the screen, and she's FaceTiming with Oprah. So it's Gayle King, Oprah, and it's like a new game now, right?
Yeah,
We talked
phone
about
within a phone. And
it's like, sure, I'll FaceTime with you, but who are you bringing to the party?
Picture.
It's like Mean Girls, the opposite.
I don't have Oprah on FaceTime, but I do want to read this. This was a letter from I'm a retired New York Police Department captain that runs an accounting firm and a private investigation company. He says he watches TV, not that much, but it was on, and he saw the RuPaul show. On face value, I don't think I have anything in common with him, and don't think the topics and the content of the show would interest me. But as a result of listening to it a while, I realized I wasn't working anymore, and I was totally engaged in the interview. I am male, white, 53 years old with 2 kids, and in law enforcement, so I am probably totally out of your target market. But it should be noted that I got hooked on your show. I think the interviews RuPaul have done are amazing. He is prepared, keeps the flow going, and reminds me of some of the best interviews I have seen on talk shows or radio. It's just so...
That was a letter from a fan.
Just so
who
moving.
says he never writes letters like that.
Yeah,
And I feel like I've over-explained it, patriarchy and stuff. It's just a fun. It's hoot. It's comfortable. Yeah. And the guests are... And I said this before, but it's like back in the day when Arsenio was really hot, like everyone would go on that show and it made like they were going downtown. Suddenly they were cool with like the African-American experience. And you know, Bill Clinton is where he played the saxophone with the glasses on. And people come to RuPaul show, whether it's the Property Brothers who are the HGTV stars or anybody, and they're just there to sort of like show up and express themselves. They're like they're part of this new 21st century, you know, the antidote to like this scary white man alt-right kind of craziness. It's just the other side is just people who celebrate fun and music and color and light and have a good time.
So it's the anti-Bill Maher.
Yes, I like what Bill Maher's doing, but it's more like the anti-Fox. And I said to my brother, I said, we're on Fox. We're on Fox Networks. And my brother said, well, you know what LBJ said? I said, what? He goes, better to be on the inside of the tent pissing out than the outside pissing in. So we're inside the machine, and we'll make change within Fox. We will change the order of life with this show. Okay, that's a little...
Well, that's all we have time for today.
Get me out of this.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, James. World of Wonders Stonewall Out Loud, made in association with YouTube and StoryCorps, is out next week, June 26th, on our YouTube channel, Wow Presents. Don't miss
And, you know,
that.
last night was the party, and I think next week we'll maybe talk a little bit about that party.
Yes, that'd be lovely.
And I'm going to say again, if you don't, the easiest way to watch the RuPaul show every day is on YouTube.
Yes, on Wow Presents.
Yep.
In fact, yes. Same time, same place next week.
Okay.
Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go
Wow.